Yes. Now that we have a little bit of a divider and all that, let's call up our good friend Mitch. Now, the last time that Mitchell Gerber was on the air, we went in depth about the plight of the Falun Gong. You can go listen to that back in April of this year. And since then, he's been able to, he still has an episode that he did with Fleckus Talks that has not been released yet. Fleckus told me it comes out next week. But he's done more. And I can't wait to get down to the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, because I think that it's going to be a little bit more relevant than you think. All right? Let's call up Mitchell and do this thing. Mitchell, welcome to the show from the other side of the planet, my friend. It's great to have you back on with us.
Thanks, Frank. Hopefully you can see me in a moment.
Well, I'm sure it's going to take just a little bit of time. Like I said, you're on the other side of the planet, and there you are. There you are. Welcome back, my friend. So,
thanks, buddy. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear. As always, just project the best you can so that we can make that headset work the best for us. But, we haven't spoken, like I said before, we haven't spoken since the beginning of the American chapter of this pandemic back in April. And it seems like we really were in a time warp, man. I could have sworn that we spoke in 2019.
I know it's been a long time, but it's if you've noticed that time is ramping up so fast right now that 8 o'clock a.m. is gone in a flash, and then it becomes 8 p.m. in the evening. So time is running so fast right now. So yeah, it's very important to get the word out as soon as possible, because things are just flying like in a blink of an eye.
Well, a lot of your takes and a lot of your observations in the world and all your work, obviously we're going to get down to the Falun Gong and the slavery and the human harvesting, that is, the organ harvesting that's going on out there in China. But a lot of your work really is starting to take on a much, it's starting to define a much bigger picture that I think that we are all about to really get into the nastier parts of a fight on a global scale. And as far as you getting the word on out there, you've been making the rounds. I mean, I'm excited to see that episode that you have coming out with Fleckus Talks. He's a good friend of our show, and I can't wait to see the conversation you and Fleckus had. And then also, I saw you on Jesse Lee Peterson's show not too long ago. I'm glad that you're getting around, man.
I am too, but it's not enough. So anyone else that wants me on, please have me on, because this is a new form of evil. The work has been there for 20 years exposing this, the Chinese Communist Party, the Falun Gong, and you can see now what is happening in America on the radical left, how communism has infiltrated into our great country of America, which unfortunately I'm not in. I am an American citizen, Frank, but I'm doing the mission 100 miles away from the Chinese border, exposing the Chinese Communist Party and what they're doing 100 miles away from Vietnam in Hanoi. So, but you can see how communism has infiltrated our great United States of America, and what Black Lives Matter, which is not even Black Lives, it's just a communist group that tries to exploit and disrupt and harm people, have been influenced by, let's just say.
Oh yeah, and you have dedicated so much of your life, especially and not only dedicated your life and your efforts, but as you said, you're 100 miles from the Chinese border. You're literally putting your life in danger. You are getting as close to the source as you can out there, and what you're exposing is mass imprisonment, slavery, just wide-scale execution, forced organ harvesting of millions of people, and not least among those millions of people are practitioners of Falun Gong. So, since this is the first time that a lot of people are going to be hearing from you, when you're framing up this butchery for people who are hearing about it for the first time, where do you begin in talking about the practice of Falun Gong, the benefits, and why it's so dangerous to the Chinese government?
Well, Falun Gong became the life force of China, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this particular spiritual mind and body practice, Chinese yoga, very similar to Tai Chi, very similar to martial arts, it embodies 5 simple stretching exercises and meditation. And it's an ancient spiritual discipline rooted in Buddhism and Taoist philosophy and the universal principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. This took China by storm, folks. Became the largest spiritual movement in China. 1 out of every 10 Chinese national citizens, Frank, started to practice this. The highest-ranking Politburo members, government officials of the Chinese Communist regime, military generals, more than half of upper-class society practicing Falun Gong in the parks, at work, in the corporate setting, wherever you were, you could see massive amounts of people, groups of people, hundreds and thousands, then tens of millions practicing Falun Gong, these slow-moving exercises that embody truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. And basically, the Chinese Communist Party was threatened by the popularity. The number of people practicing Falun Gong in China by 1998 outnumbered the number of people in the Chinese Communist Party by 30 million people.
Wow.
Not to mention the stark contrast of ideology, where the ancient arts of divine culture, as you would call it, traditional values of China, of the 5,000 years of Chinese culture, was a big threat to the communist regime. That's why when the Chinese Communist Party came into power, they wiped out, intentionally decimated 5,000 years of Chinese culture. When Falun Gong brought those ancient values back in and revived the 5,000 years tradition through its exercises and its philosophy, the communist regime was threatened, suppressed it, demonized the practice as some kind of CIA-backed cult, which is absolutely nonsense. However, they did it like the Nazis did with the Jews, to demonize, weaponize it, weaponize this propaganda machine against Falun Gong in order to turn public opinion against it, like I said, and do the worst thing ever. Not only brutally persecute its practitioners and bankrupt them financially, seize all their assets, and control all their bank accounts and even graduation certificates and marriage licenses. But they did research, the Chinese government did research on the metabolic processes, cell DNA, and organ maintenance of the human body when practicing Falun Gong. So they saw within 3 or 4 months, the human body started to revitalize, rejuvenate, to become incredibly healthy. All injuries, ailments, and illnesses vanishing. They saw this as a massive life force for the people. So they did the worst thing ever. They demonized Falun Gong in order to turn public opinion against it, then started to send hundreds and thousands of Falun Gong practitioners under the guard of the Chinese military to state-mandated hospitals, cut their organs out of their bodies while alive, sell the organs as the healthiest organs in the world illegally without any consent, and then burn the bodies and cremate the bodies to conceal the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. No, keep going, please.
No, I was just going to say, that's why, folks, 20 years of my life, I could have been in investment firms, I could have been making serious money, going around with beautiful women all day long, but something hit me when I heard about this in 2001, May 4, 2001, may the force be with you, May 4th, 2001. There's nothing coincidental in this world. Everything is by reason, I believe. It really hit my heart when I saw, I started to practice this beautiful movement of Falun Gong. My body started to feel something incredible just right off the bat. You know, I was a lot into gym. I go to gym every day, even now, 5 days a week. I work out, I pump weights. I'm very active. I like Tai Chi, I like martial arts. And with Falun Gong, it unblocks all those energy channels, allows all the stress and anxiety to be relieved and released, and allows the blood flow to flow better to my organs, and then pump the blood into the organs, as well as with the energy channels being unblocked. So immediately I started to feel incredible health. But I was so moved by the courage of the Falun Gong practitioners, the Uyghur Muslims, the Christians in China, the Tibetans, that have been persecuted and also killed for their organs. And, you know, Frank, I just wanted to share with you that to understand how organ harvesting can occur in China on a scale never seen before, this is not some kidney in the bathtub story. This is not going on in other countries like what is going on in China. There's no other regime, there's no other government, there's no other system in the world that is mandating legally sanctioned forced organ harvesting, where you are taking hundreds and thousands of your own citizens, incarcerating them in concentration camps, death camps, hospitals, turning your own doctors into murderers, using your military and your secret police at the highest ranking officials of the Chinese Communist Party, just like the Nazis did with the Jews, to kill and create a kill-to-order, state-sanctioned forced genocide and create a multi-billion-dollar organ harvesting business. And to understand this, you have to understand that there is no limit to how far the Chinese Communist Party will go to wipe out something or someone, especially because it's wiped out already 100 million people. Who cares if they wipe out the Falun Gong? You know, Frank, before I just want to share, I was on a podcast the other day with the main campaigner of forced organ harvesting, Dr. Enver Tohti. I hope you can get him on your show. He'll love to come on. He was the first doctor that whistleblowed the organ harvesting, because he was forced by the Chinese Communist regime to do a forced organ harvesting on a prisoner of conscience. He teamed with Professor Sadiq, who is a veteran activist and professor in Uyghur Muslims, exposing the Uyghur Muslims genocide in China, in Urumqi. And he was just sharing, and they were sharing, and it blew my mind when these gentlemen were sharing how the communist regime are just reducing populations like this. Just kill them. 12 million, we're going to reduce 12 million to 6 million within a matter of weeks, a matter of months. Just kill them, turning them into robots, turning people, forcefully blood testing people. The Chinese Communist Party is the red dragon. It's the devil that has been destroying humanity. And now look what is happening in the West. People are like, well, why do I have to care about this? Well, look at the CCP virus. Look at all the lockdowns. Look at the Black Lives Matter communists. Look at the Antifa. Look how they're burning and looting and calling for radical destruction and violence. This is all political correctness, cancel culture. This is all communist Marxist principles and tactics that are being used to destroy the republic, demonize Trump supporters, demonize our president, demonize our constitutional values, and we need to stop it. And that's why 20 years ago I saw this coming, and I had to do something about it. So thank you for letting me come on your show, Frank.
Oh, I love having you on, Mitch. I really do. And you're just one of those guys where you're bringing up, you help supplement a conversation that definitely needs to be had, that you can definitely do better than most. And it'd just be better for me to have you on. And your passion shines through, and your compassion shines through there too. I mean, because we know there are millions of people who are going through this right now. The Falun Gong chief among them, but you have Chinese Christians, Uyghur Muslims, and any other kind of dissidents out there. Which, of course, the crux of this is the mechanism of communism. This is what is being espoused in the streets of the United States right now, and it's not a slippery slope logical fallacy either. Communism turns people into livestock. That's just what it does. And that's why no matter where it's been implemented, the first thing they do is take out the individualism and the traditions and the culture of the people that were there before. They take away the family unit. They take away everything except loyalty to the state. And, you know, we have a lot of people right now in the United States, who are willing to say and do atrocious things for what they believe right now to be is the right side of destiny. So it just so happens that a lot of those people, they have very strong financial ties to the Chinese, among other organizations, but certainly the Chinese. You know, our political institutions, which include sports and Hollywood, because sports and Hollywood are completely political now, they have all cast their lot. The NBA is 100% a puppet of the Chinese government. Just 100% at this point. So we're seeing this more and more, and we're starting to see the lines being drawn from your work to what we're seeing play out right here in our backyards. And I know that this is something new for a lot of people who are listening right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's a big shock to people because we have never seen it this bad. And I mean, you talk about the barbarians at the gates in the Roman times. Well, we have the communist spectre at the gates, and it's infiltrated. I mean, communism is a devil bent on the destruction of humanity. There's a great publication, folks, called The Spectre of Communism Ruling Our World, from the Epoch Times out of New York. Now, the Epoch Times has done a phenomenal job in exposing the Chinese Communist Party. This is part of many Falun Gong practitioners. When they came and they were refugees, from China, fleeing China and persecution, they formed Datuan, which was the largest Chinese newspaper out of China, and it formed into the English version of the Epoch Times, as well as New Tang Dynasty Television, all out of New York, have risen to the point of one of the most popular newspapers in the world. I just saw Young Yenkeling from American Thought Leaders, an Epoch Times editorial series, interview Sean Hannity. So, and they were at CPAC, and they're really getting involved in the mainstream of things and bringing this to the public. I'm sure you've heard of Shenyun Performing Arts. Shenyun Performing Arts is a phenomenal show as well that revives the 5,000 years of Chinese culture and also puts into its show exposing the brutality of the forced organ harvesting in a beautiful theoretical way. 5 stars on Broadway, top ratings, and I implore anybody to go see that around the world if they are in America, especially Shenyun, and read the Epoch Times. I mean, you can get a 2-month subscription for $1. I mean, but brilliant journalism, editorial reviews, truth, and effective news that trumps, no pun intended, trumps the fake news media of the left, which is just absolute bollocks, absolute garbage, mouthpieces of the Communist Party. And I really hope for their sakes, these radical leftists, I really hope for their sakes that they will wake up, stop drinking the poisonous Kool-Aid, which is hard to do, and stand, as you said, Frank, on the right side of destiny, because now it's in our faces. Now we're on the verge of civil war with this communist specter infiltrating into America, trying to tell us how to live, how to wear. You have Black Lives Matter communist thugs, and I'm all for Black lives. I love Black lives. I was in Atlanta, Georgia for 25 years. I actually I marched with Coretta Scott King. She was very heavily involved in human rights. Martin Luther King. Anyway, enough about me, but the outright absurdity of the left going in, and I saw videos, for example, people are eating their meals in restaurants, law-abiding citizens, black, white, Pakistani, Muslim, who cares? And these guys, a mob starts to form, and Black Lives Matter, going right up to these guys and saying, "You better show me the fist, or I'm gonna hurt you." And these people are like, "What are you doing, man? I'm having my meal with my girlfriend. Let's do it peacefully." "No, I want you to make sure." This is the mentality of communism, the forced tyranny, and they've turned a lot of law-abiding liberal students, American people, American youth, lost American youth, into tyrants, into militants, into radicals. And this is what communism does.
Well, I have this other thing here. We had spoken about this years. Well, I keep saying it. It was only a couple of months ago that you were on. We had spoken about this a couple of months ago. But the Kilgour report, the Matas and Kilgour report, I actually have a little bit up over here from my old notes, and this was the report that really got down into the weeds of how extensive and conclusively proven the allegations are of the level of forced organ harvesting going on in China. There's just so much here, and I don't know if there's any way that you can really nutshell it for people and give them the most insane findings that they had put together, or what this is all about. But I do have something else I want to ask you too. Is there anything you want to tell people who have never heard about this particular report today? At least something to kick them off, their own personal research off.
Absolutely. Endtransplantabuse.org, and then you can also go to stoporganharvesting.org. But I love that you brought up the Kilgour Matas Report, Frank, because that is the creme de la creme. That's the cherry on top of everything. These two gentlemen, David Kilgour and David Matas, and I've had the privilege to invite David Kilgour. I stay in very good contact with him, and Ethan Gutman, also a China investigator who wrote the book The Slaughter, 10 years in the making of investigating the forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong. This is such an insane new form of evil that when the world really comes to learn about this, Frank, we will be soul-stirred that the largest country in the world, a superpower, China, which has been controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, has been doing this to their own citizens. The Kilgour Matas report in 2006 was released when David Kilgour and David Matas, two esquires, esteemed esquires, the former Secretary of State David Kilgour of the Canadian Parliament in the Affairs Division of Asia, and David Matas, an international human rights lawyer, confirmed the allegations that forced organ harvesting between 45 and 65,000 Falun Gong practitioners were forcefully harvested for their organs. And then David Kilgour and David Matas, with the Kilgour Matas Report, joined forces with Ethan Gutman and the slaughter. This can all be read for free at endtransplantabuse.org, stoporganharvesting.org, and doctorsagainstforcedorganharvesting.org, DAFOH.org. You can also go to YouTube and type in David Kilgour or David Matas. The allegations are atrocious. I mean, 52 pieces of evidence, 18 hardcore hitting pieces in 2006, coupled with another nearly up to 40 evidential points by 2016. These gentlemen have gone all around the world, including with Miss Anastasia Lin, who is Miss World Canada 2 years running, who's been blocked from China for participating about a year or two ago. And Matthew Robinson, who is an award-winning journalist and op-ed for the Epoch Times in New York and other editorials as well, exposed this. And I mean, there's absolutely no doubt, Frank, that this is going on. And you know, the Kilgour and Matas report really clarifies to the world that this is going on. But again, the World Health Organization, which is called the Communist Health Organization, the United Nations, all run by the Chinese communists, the governing bodies, they turn their back. And what is very disappointing is that only 4 countries in the entire world have stopped or banned organ harvesting and transplantation and tourism from China. The first one is Israel. A lot of people think, oh, well, the Zionists and the Israelis are harvesting. No, they're not. Yes, you've caught some rabbis in Staten Island, upstate New York, harvesting, and they were brought to justice. But it was ISIS who were the lower level group. They were harvesting in the Sinai Desert. A lot of the Somalians and the Ethiopians who were trying to cross out of their countries. But Israel banned organ tourism with the transplantation law of 2008, and made it illegal for any of its citizens, any Israeli citizens, for going to China and get an organ. And if they did, they would be completely defunded from insurance policies and premiums.
Let me ask you something here too, because I have something I had to bring up. Then it's I don't know. This is from 2012. It's not the first time I've covered this on the show, but since I have you on here, we're talking about organ harvesting. We're talking about this kind of butchery being put on top of being put on people in involuntary, forced ways across several categories of whether it be faith or whether it just be general dissident, anybody that resists the communist rule. What I wanted to ask you is this. In May of 2012, I saw this ABC News article. Headline is Chinese-made infant flesh capsule seized in South Korea. Here's the first 2 sentences. Dried flesh of dead infants appeared to be not so secret ingredient in a health supplement that is reportedly being smuggled out of China. The performance enhancement pills touted for increasing vitality and sex drive have been found in the luggage of tourists and an international mail, according to South Korean authorities. They said that they confiscated nearly 17,500 of the human flesh capsules since last August, according to the report in the Wall Street Journal. I know that this is going to be a little bit more of a sensitive question, but what are they doing specifically to children of the Falun Gong and others out there?
Oh man, well, have you heard about adrenochrome?
Yes, and I was wondering if you were going to get around to that.
It's the blood from tortured children, because the pituitary gland releases the endorphin from the pituitary gland. Basically, the adrenochrome is the blood from tortured children. I don't know too much about it. I focus more on the forced organ harvesting, but yes, there are cases, as you have said, and confirmed evidence now is coming out about tortured children of Falun Gong practitioners, because when the rounding up of all the Falun Gong commenced, hundreds and thousands, millions in in concentration camps and re-education camps. When the Laogao system skyrocketed, which is the labor camp system, right after the complete ban of Falun Gong on July 20th, 1999, you saw a massive amount of people entering into these labor camps, up to 1 million in one labor camp. I mean, and we just moved around, and the Olympics were there, so everyone had to keep quiet, and they would move the Falun Gong practitioners around, the Uyghur Muslims around, and the house Christians around to just make out that everything is great, just like the Nazis did when they wanted to when there were rumors that the Nazis were having all sorts of concentration camps, and they had the Olympics there, and everything was great, and the Red Cross. You would see like the little flowers and the Red Cross nurses, and everything was great. But little do people know there were massive amounts of re-education centers being set up, hospital wards, hospital beds, new hospitals to welcome in and ramp up this organ harvesting, especially with the CCP virus. Now with the adrenochrome, the children were also left at their own devices. And the communist regime used this as a way to sell this blood to the elites for sex drive, for vitality, for like an elixir of health. Now, we don't know exact numbers, and that's also what I need to be very careful with, because as the investigators have shared with me, our numbers are their numbers are between 80 to 100,000 transplantation murders each and every year. Now, we keep that a very conservative estimate, because if we do expose more, people will not believe it. It's already incredibly hard to get the word out, and it's irrefutable evidence. But yes, the adrenochrome is happening, and the communist regime is the #1 procurer of adrenochrome and tortured children. Dr. Enver Tohti, I brought with David Kilgour, one of the main investigators, to London. Dr. Enver Tohti, who first exposed forced organ harvesting at a seminar in London, where the gentlemen when the main investigators were talking, Ethan Gutman and others, he exposed and showed how child trafficking and children are trafficked, their organs are trafficked. He actually showed us vivid depictions of children being placed in boxes and sent. I know, I've been on raids here, a couple of raids, a couple of buddies were in the military, Mercs, and they brought me on, and I saw full hand about how kids are trafficked here in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Thailand, to fund to fuel a massive operation of pedophilia. And now you see with Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons and other people that are coming out that are trying to block everything up. The pedophile Hollywood elite that are coming out as well. I had Ronald Bernard, who was a London banker, one of the biggest elite bankers, also speaking at the child trafficking court in London, where I was there, telling us about how massive pedophilia were going on. Robert David Steele wrote my bio that I probably sent you to get on your show, Frank. He was sharing as well. Robert David Steele was CIA clandestine operation manager who leaked, and he's got on a bunch of shows as well.
I heard him.
Yeah, you've heard him, okay. So, yeah, everything is connecting the dots to communist China. The Wall Street bankers, the Wall Street think tanks, Henry Kissinger, Rockefellers, George Soros, they're all linked. They've made a fortune off the institutionalized slavery system of mainland China that has funded the consumer market, that's bankrupted our entire nation. And now we have communist radicals running amok, okay, burning down streets, trying to cancel culture, infected the NFL, infected the NBA, and talking about the NBA, a complete slave and minion to the communist regime. Remember when Hong Kong, when they were flying the flags and begging the Americans to say, look, we are being invaded by communist China. We have a Hong Kong security national law which says that, and states and mandates that if anyone talks, any Hong Kong resident, any Hong Kong citizen that violates or talks anything bad about the communist regime will be sent indefinitely to a prison camp for life. So, and you got LeBron saying, oh, we don't want to talk about that because we don't want to upset our stock options portfolios and our market share and get into liability with the communist regime who is funding our paychecks when we go to China, because they got the largest market share, just like Skype, okay? The largest market share, Twitter, Facebook, Google, they're all sleeping with the red dragon. Oh, I got terminated from Facebook. You can't believe what I've gone through.
I can imagine it. I can really imagine, and I'm glad to hear that you've gone out on raids with military guys and because maybe that makes a little bit more sense to me. I hope that you got protection out there, and I hope that you're in with some good people that actually make it possible for you to do what you do with a significant, or at least a legitimate amount of protection. Because the types of themes that you are uncovering and the kind of pictures that you are filling in are really something that over here we're still in a phase in America where people are just calling it conspiracy theories and don't think about this, and there is no cannibalism, and there is no harvesting of human tissue for anything other than voluntary transplantation and stuff like that. There is no elite, there is no parasitical elite, there is no ritualistic elite. There's nothing. I mean, we're still in the denial phase. You're out in the middle of the reality of it right now, and it hasn't slapped us really fully square in the face. But let me ask you something based on that. In one of your more recent Twitter videos that you had put on out there, you were talking about the wisdom that was passed down by ancient elders and to be able to prepare people to be on the right side of destiny, especially when we come face to face with eventual calamity. What kind of reckoning do you see coming our way? What kind of reckoning? What kind of calamity? And how do we come out on the other side of it intact?
You need to really be strong in yourself. You really need to believe in yourself. You really need to nurture your inner child. Okay, it's a psychological mindset. It's an emotional grounding that you have to come into your body more and more. Nowadays, as you feel it, we are really at that stage of losing it all. I mean, Gerald Salento of the Trade Institute said, when people lose it and they've got nothing else to lose, they lose it. That's a great saying, because we are on the verge of calamity and a disaster we've never seen, a global reset, this second wave coming with this virus, which is allegedly a biological weapon. Well, we don't even have to go there, but my intel reports it's a biological weapon that was unleashed by the Chinese Communist Party to maintain the power grab and the power struggle. But that's allegedly. I'm not saying it's confirmed, it's allegedly. But I don't want to raise feathers even more so that I'm doing today, because what I've been talking with you, Frank, already makes people's heads spin. But I believe that we're headed for a great disaster. And even a civil war, we're on the verge of a civil war in America. You can see clearly what's going on. They're printing money out in oblivion. The interest rates have been as low as anything. So if you've got a business and you've got a great concept, Dan Pena, the $1 trillion man, was like, you should borrow the hell out of the banks. They're offering the lowest interest rates, even negative interest rates. You can borrow the hell out of the banks. And the money's not worth anything, pretty much on paper, on digital. And a lot of people are going to crypto as well. It's a crypto revolution as well. But I do see out of this that people are going to become more considerate of one another when they lose, when people lose things, and people go through a time of great trepidation and tribulation. They begin to really look at themselves differently. This is what this plague has made me do. This lockdown has made me do. Go inside, reevaluate my life. What's important and what's not important, forming good relationships, appreciating, having gratitude for what I am living and who I am living with and what I'm doing. And the key is to stand on the right side of destiny. And that's why I want to just tell you, Frank, God bless you, brother, because I've followed your work. I see what you're doing. I see how many people are following you, and the subscriptions are only going to get higher. Now, you might get demonetized because the YouTube minions and the Facebook minions who are aligned with the evil of the Communist Party. And now I'm just going to call it straight. I don't care about whether people like me. I'm not living for people to like me. I'm living so people can know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I can at least do something before I depart this world, because what is a man who cannot make the world a better place? So happiness doesn't come from money and power and women or whatever you want to call it. The power lies in what you do with your life, in the life you have, before your time's up. So for me, I don't get any money. I don't leave no name, no seek no reward. I just want people to know the truth, and the truth of the matter. So for you to share with me and allow me to come on your show, to speak to your audience, to speak to your listeners, I would bloody well help that they understand the sincerity and the urgency, and read the information. Go to practice Falun Gong. The exercises are amazing. I mean, this is not a CIA-backed cult. This is not a religious, extremist, radical cult. This is a beautiful spiritual movement that has been outlawed. They've been killed for their organs, sold to the highest bidder. A multi-billion-dollar income-generating business has been formed off this forced organ harvesting. And actually, when you practice the exercises of the Falun Gong, it helps you, and it cleans out your system, and basically protects you from viruses, and it allows you to sleep better, think better, feel better, and have the courage to follow your heart, and trust your own heart. You know what I mean? So, the best way I can say to you.
I'm so happy to have you on again, Mitch, and I want to invite you back whenever you want to come back on, and let me know anytime that you have something else. I can't wait for that interview that you have coming up with Fleckus. I'll be sharing that around, and it'll be great to have you back on soon. We definitely need to do another update in a couple of months.
And Frank, always a pleasure. And if you have anyone out there in Radio Land that wants me on their shows, please let me come on. And to fail to support what is good and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. So thank you, Frank, man. And please let people. I've sent you all the websites. I've sent you all the links and the videos. Please share with your listeners. Please share with your viewers. And I'm so glad that I got to share about Falun Gong and my personal opinion about what's going on, because I've been working so hard for 20 years. I put everything on the line. I put everything on the line. So
you
thanks, brother.
See it.
Thanks for letting me come on.
No, it's definitely apparent, and that's apparent. And I have all the links that you gave me. I put them in the description of this video right here, so people have plenty that they can go off and read. Plenty of opportunities to get in touch with you, and I'll definitely be passing your name around to some of my friends and that have shows of their own. And hopefully you're able to land a couple of good bookings.
Oh, we will, because as soon as this starts to unravel and you see what is going on, no doubt about it, this is going to be on every single mainstream media, from the left to the right to the middle, and people are going to be sorry that they haven't come to the call like you have. Your courage and your bravery, Frank, is amazing, and I'm honored to know you, brother. So God bless and take care until we meet again. Hopefully, I'm still alive. If I'm not, at least you've got a radio show of archive. But you know what? You just got to do what you have to do to get the truth out.
Well, thank you so much again. And like I said, you're putting yourself really on the line in ways that many of us in the audience, and even me over here in my cozy little studio, we can't. You know, I can't even imagine living under that kind of pressure out there in Vietnam. So thank you once again, Mitch, and I'll talk to you after the show for sure.
Thanks, brother. Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Be well. That is Mitchell Gerber.